even from Muslim Council of Hong Kong, hotels in Hong Kong have contacted us to get Quran copies from us. Brother Majid, the biggest thing I would feel they felt like that he is our own was the fact that I could speak Cantonese. Trying to practice Islam through Islam, not through culture, right? That was a big struggle, my brother. They used to come to me and say, Mr. Malik, like for example for Christmas especially, they used to say, Mr. Malik, can you become the Santa Claus? Right? Because it's like you already got the beard as a father and the son. But I've always felt that if you want the youth to be with you, you need to be with them, right?
This episode dives into the heart of cultural identity, faith, rediscovery, and navigating life across continents. When the lines between East and West blur, how do you find your true north? With Adeel Malik's journey as our guide, we unpack the stories that lead us back to our roots. This episode of PCHM is proudly brought to you by Yafa Limited, your premier source of authentic Palestinian produce and finest quality dates in the UK. Tell me about your upbringing in Hong Kong, and you were born in Hong Kong. So tell me about that.
Alhamdulillah. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for having me on. Alhamdulillah. So I was born in Hong Kong, and for a lot of people, that's a big surprise. My grandparents obviously are from Pakistan. They moved about 50 years ago when people were moving to UK, US, Canada, and whatnot. My grandfather, may Allah have mercy upon him, he decided to move to Hong Kong. And then my uncle, he also decided to move that side of the world, but he decided to move to Japan. And they had a very tough upbringing. And just like most of our grandparents, when they moved to UK as well, I've heard stories that it was tough upbringing. But yeah, since he moved, that's it. My father moved, my uncles moved, and I was born there. My brothers were born there. My cousins were born there. And obviously growing up in the early days, we just didn't feel like we were like in a strange land. Alhamdulillah. We just considered Hong Kong our home, and I still consider Hong Kong my home. Alhamdulillah. So in initial stage, in the kindergarten, for example, the nursery that you call it over here, most of the people, I think the other thing was my parents, may Allah have mercy upon them, they put me in like ethnic minority schools. So the people I saw were looked like me, basically. Until I got to secondary school. And then we can speak about that later. But yeah, in the initial stages, the kindergarten and even the primary school, the people I hung around with were Pakistani, Indians, Nepalis, Filipinos. Yeah.
So there was a kind of like a cultural, you were born there, but then culture at home and culture outside, there was more kind of like a shock.
See, the thing was, because I never experienced anything else, that for me, that was my culture. I used to visit Pakistan, not regularly, but just a bit here and there, I guess. But yeah, Pakistan for me in the initial stages was just about cricket.
Yeah, true. Most of us
about cricket. That it was just, watching the matches and, obviously when anybody asked, and of course language as well, 100%, because at home we spoke Urdu and Punjabi. And of course, the religious element is 100% there as well. But generally speaking, that's what it was. Where I grew up, the place that we lived in Hong Kong, the building that we stayed in, we had a flat basically. Again, majority of the people in that building were Pakistanis. So it was like South Hall or something, or Wimpsall Road. That's what it was. And it's still there. It's called Chung King Mansion, if anybody knows about that. And that's what it was. I never felt like I'm living properly in China type thing. It always felt like I'm living in a mini Pakistan type thing.
Okay, so there are a couple of things I want to speak to you about. One thing is about your parents. I'm sure that our parent generation and stuff, they were more into culture than the deen. I'm sure that should be the case in your side of things as well. So how was the shift from you? When you were growing up, more Pakistani cultural thing, and then now more you're serving the deen, you are spreading the deen. Allah has given you this opportunity to do it. So how that shift happened?
Yeah, so that's a big shift, my brother. And everybody has their own moments, I would say. So as you said, in Hong Kong, and in terms of our grandparents and parents, their main goal was survival in the beginning, just to on the basic needs and just finding their own foot and stuff. Then after that, it was just about education for the children, because of course our parents, may Allah have mercy upon them, they weren't like, I can only speak for myself, I guess, they weren't on the education level, in terms of especially the English language and stuff like that. So that's what it was. Of course, we knew the importance of prayer. We knew the importance of Ramadan, of course, alhamdulillah. We knew we were Muslim. We had to stay away from pork and alcohol and, gambling and stuff like that. But in terms of like, would I call myself a practicing Muslim back then? It would be difficult to say so. But did I have a Muslim identity? Of course I did. Because my parents, everybody, they go shalwar kameez. So the clothing side of it, you could tell that, that person is a Muslim that's walking, and of course the language as well. But the shift, to be honest, it came when I was basically about to get married. And of course, this is quite further ahead. It was mainly due to the fact that my dad passed away. May Allah have mercy upon him. And that was a shift. That was like my trigger point. And that made me just look at the world in a different angle. Because literally it was like 6 months before my marriage, and, Allah's Qadr came, and he left, and I was just shook. Because it was just quite sudden. It wasn't like he was sick for a long time. It was quite sudden. So it just shook me like inside, and I just decided, and I'll probably repeat this more as well in this talk, that I just wanted to be a sadqa jariyah for my dad. That I knew from the limited knowledge I had at that time that there's certain things that continues to benefit the deceased even after they're gone. And of course, a child's dua is one of them. It was just that sadqa jariyah concept that just stuck with me. And that's when I just started staying away from certain things, started doing certain things. And two of the things that I started doing, and it was quite interesting when, people said, what was the first thing that you started doing when you wanted to start become practicing, basically, right? Number one, it's quite interesting because this is talking about, subhanAllah, I'm 41 now, alhamdulillah. So it was like 24 years old. So that's like, 60 years ago now, alhamdulillah. First thing was start to keep the beard. This is before beard was a fashion, right? Because now beard is a fashion as well.
True.
Number two, stop listening to music, right? Those were the two things. And again, different people have different ways of getting into Islam. But for me, it was like, okay, I need to do this before I even start looking in Salah and knowledge and stuff like that. But it was just those two things I always remember. It just stuck with me. And people, and did I get people say stuff at me? Of course I did. From within the family, and of course outside as well, because a 24-year-old guy living in Hong Kong, it was quite a shock for everyone, to be honest. That why are you doing this? Why are you becoming a Maulvi? Why are you you've got your whole life ahead of you. But yeah, that was the shift. It was my dad passing away.
Okay, let's talk. I'll talk about two things here. One is your relationship with your dad, because I can see that you had emotions when you were talking about it.
Yeah.
And another thing is your family's reaction as well. So let's talk about your dad first. So
sure.
How was your relationship with him growing up in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, it was beautiful. He was more of a tradesman. So he used to travel a lot between Hong Kong, Japan, Pakistan, UK. So these four countries he used to travel a lot because he used to do import-export, basically. We did have shops in Hong Kong as well, but he was more of a businessman. But yeah, it was a very, very close relationship, alhamdulillah. And he, not just with me, he was regarded as a captain of the family. Even with my cousins and stuff, like he used to keep the family together. He was there in good times and he was there at tough times for people. And no matter where people were, he used to travel and be there for them. And that was something I try my best, because I'm the eldest in my family, I try my best to keep that going, which is keeping in touch with people, especially your family members, because sadly speaking, that tradition is going far, far away from our society. We're busy for just in our own little circle. Forget others, but just for our little circle, we just get so busy, and week goes, month goes, year goes, and we're just meeting each other either for Eid or for a wedding or for a funeral. Sadly speaking, that's how it's become. But that's something I always remember about my dad, that I remember he used to, I think on the weekend, he used to tell my mom, right, bring my phone book. And he used to just start speaking to his cousins, to his uncles, to his, basically other people. And you would spend the half a day in his room, and all I can hear is just him talking and laughing and discussing things. And that just stuck with me. And I thought, you know what? And of course, we know the hadith where we're told that keep the ties of kinship, because Allah puts barakah in your life when you keep the ties of kinship. So yeah, the relationship was there, not just as a father and son, but also, I guess, as a friend as well, which was quite beautiful. I remember once I went to Pakistan, and he was going up, taking me around, and he was just doing his own thing because he was a businessman. And I said to him, and obviously in Urdu, that, I've been here for a few days, but you've not done anything I want to do. Right. And then I remember after that, he canceled all his meetings, and he just took me to restaurants and try street food and took me shopping and stuff. So yeah, it's just, and also for example, because when I moved to UK, I used to miss stuff from Hong Kong, like the food, especially. I'm a foodie. I used to miss the food a lot. So whenever he used to come, I used to say, can you bring that juice for me? Can you bring that, crisp for me? And I used to say just give me 2, 3, but he used to bring me bags. And it was just this isn't just for me, even for my cousins. They used to say, uncle, can you bring that for me? And again, he used to just bring bags. He was just, alhamdulillah, very giving. He was very generous. I remember even on the streets in Pakistan, even when I go now, they used to say, your dad was something special. And these are people poor people as well. And that's the impact that you want to leave, wouldn't you? That people remember you even when you're gone in these kind of words. And he's been gone 16 years now.
And again, we would touch upon it earlier. The reaction from your cousins, your families, your mother, your siblings.
So yeah, that's a very, very important one, my brother, because I'm talking about 16 years ago. I'm 24 years old. I'm talking about Hong Kong. I'm talking about in my family at that time. And of course, things have changed, alhamdulillah, a lot. But I would say, and this isn't to brag or anything like that, I would say I was probably the first one that started taking religion seriously. And it was a shock. It was a shock for everyone. And I think beard was a big one. And then I started doing da'wah. I started going on the streets in Hong Kong. I started attending events where how to learn to do da'wah, start watching videos online from the UK, from the US and other stuff. And people were like, or for example, started getting in more heard about what's happening to the ummah in terms of, on the whole. It's starting affecting my life. Obviously, even Gaza at that time was a big topic. Of course, it is now as well. But at that time, it wasn't coming into your house. But I started bringing these topics in my house. And it took some time for people to realize that he's not going to come back. People used to tell, I remember my mum as well, that, keep a hold of this kid. I mean, you still call him a kid, but yeah, that he's going too extreme. He might become a fundamentalist. Because, of course, we do see that as well. And it's sad. It's sad. But my thing was, and of course, the other element, which was trying to practice Islam through Islam, not through culture. Right? That was a big, big struggle, my brother. I remember, and I don't want to give certain points, but there were certain things that I stopped doing. I used to put calls. I used to, from my elders and stuff to say, why are you not doing this? Who are you? Are you saying all of the elders are wrong? All of these emotional attacks, basically. I had to face that. But by that time, alhamdulillah, I was married as well. So my wife, alhamdulillah, she kept me strong. I'm much stronger now. But back then I was quite soft-hearted and still am. But it used to hit me a lot. But yeah, it was a big shock, my brother, and alhamdulillah, I just kept asking Allah, like, just keep me steadfast. You don't know what's right and what's wrong, only you know. So just keep me steadfast.
So let's talk about you moved to Glasgow at 14 by young age. That's another shift.
That's
One
another
shift we just talked about. That's another shift we're talking about here.
100%.
So what do you remember most about the move and cultural shock? And another shock we're talking about here.
100%.
That shock is for your family. This shock is for you.
Yeah. So as you said, I was 14, 15 years old. I remember I just finished Form 3, Secondary 3, and on that topic as well. I went to school in Hong Kong, which was a very, very high level school, alhamdulillah. But just on this topic, when I was in Glasgow for a visit. My dad took me to Glasgow first time ever for a visit.
Why Glasgow?
Sorry?
Why Glasgow?
So my uncle lives there.
Oh, of course.
I've got loads of family. My chacha lives there, my taya lives there, and their cousins live there. So I've got quite a big family network in Glasgow. And a lot of them moved from Kuwait and Nairobi not Kuwait, Kenya, Nairobi and stuff. So yeah, I went with my dad for a visit just for summer holidays. And then my uncle said to my dad, you know what? It will be good if he just remains here now because if he stays here, he can do his standard grade, which is like GCSE. He can do his higher, which is like A level and stuff. And then it will help him when he goes to university and stuff. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned at all. But yeah, I was an obedient child, I guess. And I said, okay, cool. If you want me to stay, fine. And I did. And it was, to be honest, the culture side of it was one thing. The other side of it was that I was staying with my uncle and my aunt. So my dad and my mom were still in Hong Kong. I moved basically on my own. And I'm sure everybody knows, we'll kind of connect to that when you're living with others, it has its own challenges. When you're living in your own house, like basically your mom and dad and your brother, it's more like you're at home, but when you're living with someone else and, they have, of course, their own way and stuff, they're lovely people, but there's always that it's not really there. That side was there. The other side was, of course, the culture, 100%, because I remember when I went to school in Glasgow and I started seeing people and I started hearing people and I used to think, is my English that bad? Because I couldn't understand their accent, right? And of course, I get into that accent even now sometimes, but it was just going over my head. And I was like, subhanAllah, I'm not that bad. Come on, man. And it was a mission. It was for the first few months. I remember I used to call my mom and just cry. And I used to be like, why am I here? I couldn't say to my dad, because that time, the relationship between a son and a father, you still had that, I don't know what you want to call it, that not that fear, but that respect that you can't say anything bad to your dad. How could you do this to me, for example?
That's true.
Obviously now it's much lower now, but back then you still had that in your heart. So I couldn't say that to my dad, but my mom, I used to say, why am I here? I want to be with you. And it was, again, she used to say, just have patience. This is for your own good. It's for your education and stuff. But it was a big culture shock. And the school I went to in Glasgow, 95% of the people were non-Asians, of course. I made a few friends quite quickly, alhamdulillah. I got involved in the cricket team I remember in my school as well. So that helped because it brought basically the people that came for cricket, most of them were Desis. So that helped. And, but I think above everything also, Scottish people are lovely. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but, in the beginning, they knew I felt out of place. But I remember I made a couple of white people friends, and they used to start joking with me. And when they realized, especially when they realized I was from Hong Kong, their mindset went to a different place. They're like, whoa, you're from Hong Kong. I was like, yeah. You're like, you don't look Hong Kongish. I was like, Adam, yeah, I know. But it just opened up another barrier, and they started getting more interested in me. They started giving me nicknames and stuff. And I remember a couple of times when I was getting a bit bullied, they stood up for me as well. So those kind of things really, really helped. And I remember in my home, I used to bring them home as well, like white people. And it just made me feel like, you know what? I'm not really out of place. And I also think, of course, I came from Hong Kong, which, yes, I know I went to an ethnic minority school, but there were still Chinese people there, right? So I knew that, you know what?
Asians, still Asians, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, if I was moving from Pakistan to UK, I think that would have been a bit more difficult, a bit more challenging. But I came from a non-Desi country to another non-Desi country. But the difference, I think the main difference was, you know, Hong Kong people, generally speaking, Chinese people, they're quite passive. They like to live in their own bubbles. They're quite reserved. Here, of course, is a different shift, right? Open, in your face, good or bad, right? They're in your face. They want to get to know you. They want to get, you know, get in your circles and stuff, generally speaking. So that was quite a bit change I had to bring in myself and my character and my social, you know, skills and stuff like that. But yeah, it was
what about your Muslim identity? Like, obviously, as you said, you were in a non-Muslim country there anyway, and now you moved to another non-Muslim country. So your Muslim identity, did you find it easier to identify yourself as a Muslim in Hong Kong or in Glasgow in the UK?
So I think it was quite similar in the initial stages, because what I felt was, because, as I said, sadly speaking, I wasn't really practicing myself at that age, like 14, 15 years old. And it took me some time until, as I said, when my dad passed away. So in that, what was that, 9 to 10 years? I used to just do things like as if, like I'm a local guy. I knew I'm different from them, of course. I knew I'm a Muslim. And to be honest, they used to respect that to a certain, to many moments as well. I didn't feel like I was, you know, there was a big shift, to be honest, in terms of my Muslim identity from Hong Kong and in Glasgow. The big shift was later on, much later on, when I started becoming practicing, because then I started identifying myself as a Muslim. Okay. You know what I mean? Before that, it was like, it's my culture, you know, take it or leave it. You know, I was looking at a Muslim as being a cultural thing rather than a religious thing. So it didn't really hit me at that stage. But later on, it did.
Okay, cool. So now you are in Glasgow. Then you moved back to Hong Kong.
Yes, I did.
So then just talk me through what's happened from Glasgow. How long did you live there? How was the life there? And then why did you decide to come back to Hong Kong?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, I lived in Glasgow for about 10 years. Alhamdulillah, I went to secondary school there, finished my secondary school, high school, which is, you know, some places call it. We went to university there, alhamdulillah. Started working there as well for 2-3 years. Then it came to the point of getting married. And that's when my wife is from England. I was from Scotland, met each other through a friend, and wanted to get married. And my dad said, right, because my mum, she tried to move to Glasgow. She stayed for about a year. She didn't like it. She found it too cold. So there was 2 reasons. Number one, she wanted too cold. Number 2, she didn't feel she was like she can go, because in Hong Kong, where we were living, as I mentioned to you, we were living in a building. So you used to go down and she could go anywhere she wants and she will feel safe. Because and one of the best things about Hong Kong was that it's a very safe place. Alhamdulillah. And even like sometimes she used to go at night, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock to get something from a grocery store. And she would not hesitate to go. In Glasgow, there was the hesitation. She couldn't drive as well. So she felt quite homebound. Right? She didn't really like to get on the public transport. And she just kept missing Hong Kong. So I think after a year, she moved back. So when I was about to get married, that's one of the things that my dad said, that I would like you all, like me and my wife, to move back to Hong Kong, to be with my mom and my brother tried as well. And again, they moved back as well. My dad was obviously traveling. So it wasn't about him. It was about my mom, especially my mom, I think more than anything else, that we decided, okay, let's move back. So yeah, we got married, Pakistan, alhamdulillah. And I moved back at the age of 25, which itself was a culture shock as well. And you're like, what do you mean culture shock? You moved back to Hong Kong. But it was, because I remember even now saying to my mom, because I obviously in Glasgow, you know, the houses are bigger, right? So when I moved back to Hong Kong, I moved back in the same building. We were living in a different flat at that time. But I remember I felt like the walls were like coming down on me, because the places are smaller there. right? And obviously, I'm sure you've heard Hong Kong as being a really bustling city, right? Glasgow is like 5% busy compared to Hong Kong.
That's
I
true.
felt that like I was like claustrophobic, if you want to call it. And I was like, why am I feeling that? This is my home, man. Come on. Right. But I felt that. And it's amazing how your mind works because I got used to Glasgow lifestyle, because when I was 14 to 24, for many people will say that's when you become a person, right? 14 to 24 kind of age. So that's where I was. That's where I was. So when I moved back, it took me some time to get back to being a Hong Konger again.
Okay, so now what I was thinking, I was laughing when you're talking about from Glasgow you moved to Hong Kong and the smaller houses, like here in Glasgow. I never lived. I've traveled a lot. I mean, I visited there, but in London, in rest of the UK, the houses we complain that there's a very small houses here, and like people living in a small house, and you were complaining that Glasgow was bigger and then Hong Kong was smaller than that. So I'm just trying to imagine how cramped it would be.
The sad reality is that, when you see pictures or videos of certain countries, they only show you the good stuff. They only show you the glamour and the lighting and stuff like that. But Hong Kong has a major, major housing issue. And I know everybody has an housing. Every country is complaining, we have an housing issue, right?
Yeah.
But it's about what level you are, right? Yeah, so in Hong Kong, I can tell you that. So the last place I lived before I moved to Birmingham, basically, we lived in a house. Alhamdulillah, we were blessed with that. It was a flat, and it was 600 square feet. I don't know if you can imagine that. Basically, it was 600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, small bedrooms. You can just put a bed, and if you take 3 steps into the bedroom is finished, right? So just imagine, just trying to make it visualize as much as I can, right? So that's how small it is. And that flat that we left, by the way, that flat was valued at 5 million Hong Kong dollars, which is about 500,000 pounds. 600 square feet. 600 square feet, right? And this is why I say to brothers, especially, obviously I don't really speak to sisters, but brothers here, I said, they complain about these things. I was like, you don't know what you have, right? Because even if you type on Google or something like that, cage homes in Hong Kong, it's called cage homes. So there's flats where people have made it like, these bunk beds, right? And there's like 3 bunk beds, and then each bed has like a cage on the outside, and people are renting that for like 200, 300 pound a month. When they go away, they lock it. When they go back, it's just a bed, and they put like, their stuff like books or something on the wall next to the wall, or a little TV or something. That's it. That's how people are living in Hong Kong. Some people, not everyone, of course, but some people are living like that. But of course, you won't hear about this, the news and stuff, because Hong Kong, the mind says, whoa, it's an amazing city, international city, multinational city, right? It's a hub, right? But there is that side of Hong Kong, which it's sad. And of course, when, people, especially, I would say in the last 10 or 15 years, when the youth or the next generation want to live out more compared to live in with their parents. So that doesn't help the housing market as well, right? Which is worldwide phenomena, of course. But the reality is the sizes of houses. I'm saying houses, I would say homes, because they're not really house. You think about it's a house, right? I would say the homes, the flats, the apartments, they are small, right? And that's why I remember whenever the kids go to the madrasas and stuff, they used to run and just play about in the madrasa because they couldn't find that space in the house or in their homes. Wow. So, it's about perspective.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your teaching and purpose a bit. Yeah. So you spent 13 years as an English teacher. That's a long time investing in young minds, isn't it? So what did you learn from it? And what do you want to share with us about your experience?
That was, when I moved to Hong Kong, the last time I moved to Hong Kong, I became a teacher, and I became a full-time teacher, English teacher. And again, that was, it didn't become like suddenly. I lost my job when I went to Hong Kong, and my wife told me, you know what, you need to look into something which you can progress and get like basically more income, of course, as well. And I remember one of my managers in Glasgow actually telling me, when I was working in a call center in Glasgow, he used to say to me, Adeel, you're a people's person. You're being wasted being in front of a computer, right? I used to just take it as, just icing on the cake and stuff. I didn't really pay. It just stuck with me. And my grandfather, may Allah have mercy upon him, he was a teacher in Hong Kong. He was an Urdu teacher in Hong Kong. So I remember when I started being a teacher, everybody said, oh, he's becoming like his grandfather. So I started doing like part-time teaching first. Sorry?
It's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
The steps of your grandfather.
100%. So I started doing some part-time teaching first in Hong Kong, just to see the flavor and stuff while I was doing my full-time. And I remember I used to come home after like 2 hours of teaching. After doing my 7 hours at work in the office and doing my 2 hours of teaching, I used to come home and say to my wife, I enjoyed that 2 hours more than the 7 hours. Right? So, Allah had a plan for me, of course, and it just opened up. And then I lost my job. And then I said, okay, you know what? Let me look at full-time teaching now. And it wasn't so easy to get into. I had to do like these, courses. Back then it was easier, of course. Now it's more difficult. So I thought I did an online course, became a teacher through an agency, Chinese school. And I remember my first school as well. I took, subhanAllah, every school I went to, I stayed for at least 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years in every school. Now, at that time, I had already started become practicing as well, alhamdulillah. So I had my beard. And that was a shock for them as well. Because I remember one school, I went for an interview, and it was a Christian school. And I remember in the interview, the principal was sitting, the English panel head was sitting. And they said to me, after a few questions, they said, Mr. Malik, that beard. I was like, uh-huh. They're like, are you going to keep that? I was like, yeah. And then, oh, okay. They're like, we've been running this school for like 50 years. We've never, ever employed a Muslim in our school. And they started saying, okay, are you, some people will take that as an insult. I just took it as, you know what? They just don't know. They just don't know. Like Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Taif, right? They just don't know any better, right? So I took it as, yeah, alhamdulillah, I came here with an interview with that beard, so I'm going to keep it, right? And then they said, do you have to pray and stuff? I was like, yeah. And they said, how many times? Or 5 times? They said, would you need anything while you're in school? I was like, yeah, there's one prayer, which is during my lunchtime. Just take me 5 minutes. I just need a quiet place, and I just want to do my prayer. And that's it. He's like, okay. And then one of the biggest thing they said to me in that interview, and again, it's just stuck with me, was, they said, Mr. Malik, we've never employed a Muslim before, but the way you are, we're going to judge others. And that's not fair, of course. But when they said that to me, it brought burden on me, right? Because this is a community, and they said it was all Chinese. It was a Christian school. I think there was like 3 or 4 Muslim kids, but the rest of them were all Chinese. Christians, atheists, Buddhists, whatever their religion was, but their ethnicity was Chinese, right? Now, 2 years down the line, that same head teacher, she said to me, Mr. Malik, do you have anybody else who's like you that we want to employ?
Wow.
Right?
Amazing.
And, for me, and I like to bring the story, and again, Na'udhu Billah, is not to brag or anything like that. It was just to show the impact you can leave on people's hearts. They knew I'm a Muslim, number one. They knew I'm a practicing Muslim, because I remember even in the school, I was a native English teacher basically, right? So I was like the face of this school, right? And I remember during Christmas time, during Halloween time, during Chinese New Year time, they used to come to me and say, Mr. Malik, like for example, for Christmas especially, they used to say, Mr. Malik, can you become the Santa Claus? Right? Because they said, you already got the beard. And I stood my ground with hikmah, with wisdom, with a smile on my face. And I was like, come on, guys. Of course not. I can't. They're like, come on, it's just for fun. I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I just can't do it. I won't feel comfortable. And they respected that, alhamdulillah. But every single year they tried. But I stuck to my guns. Halloween, again, they used to say, Mr. Malik, can you dress up as something? I was like, look, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And alhamdulillah, the good outweighed anything they looked at as being like a drawback. And the other thing, Brother Majid, the biggest thing I would feel they felt like that he is our own was the fact that I could speak Cantonese.
Oh.
that really, really helped me, I would say. Because when I
Because
stood,
language is very important, and if you
also
speak
it
their
is,
language,
it
they
broke barriers, because when I stood to my students, why? Le homa, which means, hi, are you okay? He's like, whoa, Mr. Malik, you know Chinese? I was like, yeah, I know Chinese. So you can't say anything bad about me. Right? And they just, and then of course, alhamdulillah, Allah bless me with the character. I'm a very, friendly guy to a certain, not to a certain, most of the time. Um, and I think that's what made them realize we want to keep Mr. Malik, because they just realized how I became like one of them, whether it's within the staff members or whether it's, of course, within classrooms. There was no like that. There was no bridge. There was no walls. And I remember even during lunchtime, the kids would come to my office and say, Mr. Malik, can we have some time with you? I was like, yeah, sure. And they used to talk to me about stuff, whether it's, of course, beer was a big, big thing. They used to, because again, it wasn't at that time, it was very, very new. And I remember once we went to China for a school visit. It was like a holiday. Yeah, it was a school visit to another school, and it was just a staff member who went. And I remember going in there on the bus. I got to that school in China. I think it was Guangdong. And the kids were in their classrooms. And I was like this, basically, right? Of course. So I went, and I remember I was walking down the corridor, and literally all the kids, forget the teaching, they were just looking at me, right? Who is this guy? And another thing that not helped me, but it just connected me with someone. I don't know if you watch basketball. LeBron James. I don't know if you know him. So in Hong Kong, especially in my school, people say, Mr. Malik, LeBron James. And then, it just became like a joke. And even when I'm in China and they would start doing this, I was like, yeah. Because that's what the celebration of LeBron James is, right? And I remember it was just an awe for them. And then there was like a moment where everybody was like, the staff were all in the corridor. And the kids were literally like on the balconies and just looking down. And my teacher, my principal was Mr. Malik, they're looking for you. I was like, okay, it's kind of awkward, but why? Because they haven't seen anybody like this, And it's a pressure. Of course, it's a pressure.
Yeah,
Allah put you in that place where they're looking at you, right? You are representing someone, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, you're in that position. Whatever you do, your body language and everything, they're going to make a judgment call. That these people are like this, sadly.
You're kind of like an ambassador of Islam there for 100%, them. 100%. Islam from you.
100%.
Okay, as a teacher, let's take on the teaching bit. So as a teacher, what do you think, what makes a great teacher, especially when you're working with children?
So that's a big, big topic.
And especially in this fast-paced digital world.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, when I've stopped doing teaching, well, it's not been that long. I moved to Birmingham about 3 years ago now. So, but I think more than anything, it's about making the students realize that you are one of them. That's what my thing is. I kept that respect there, between a teacher and a student, and I do the same thing with my son as well, right? As a father and a son. But I've always felt that if you want the youth to be with you, you need to be with them, right? That's the first thing, time. Number two, listen to them. Their ideas, their thoughts. You might not disagree. You might disagree with them. But if they are coming to you, that's already a big, big thing. Don't shut them down. Don't give them like body language as if, what kind of thing is that to say? The body language makes a big difference as well. The other thing is, have some common interest. That's a big, big thing. And that's what I started doing with my kids in school. Like I said, basketball or football. I'm a Man United fan, big, big Man United fan, right? And my son's a Liverpool fan. So common interest is a big, big topic. Food, as I said, I love food. I remember, especially with the girl students in the school, they used to say, Mr. Malik, your food, it has many different color. Orange color, the jalebi. We were talking about jalebi. And then, so I start showing them pictures, and then I start making them pronounce the word. How do you say jalebi? Jalebi, right? But it's just these little things. I made them open up, not just my culture, but my religion as well, because I made them realize, why do I have a beard? Then I remember once there was a topic, social issue topic about slaughtering of the animal. So again, it made them realize, gave me the chance to show them about halal butchering, right? The difference between that. And of course, because I was teaching in the secondary school about of course, it's a sensitive issue, but it started becoming in Hong Kong as well about LGBT, for example. That came in my classrooms. So there were certain issues, and I had to be careful because I couldn't let go of Islam, of course, but I had to be careful that I wasn't being too demeaning or insulting to things that we don't agree with. So I think the biggest thing, as I said, is a common interest, having respect, keeping that friendly relationship, but not too friendly that they start disrespecting you, of course. And just being, having a good character, body language and stuff. Because I remember even online when I see some videos and stuff, people say, oh, what a great teacher he is. And what is the teacher doing? High-fiving, playing around with the kids, having a good time, not being a strict, grumpy old man, basically, because nobody's going to come to you. That time is gone. That time is long gone, But yeah, I hope that helps.
So now let's move on from your teaching, in 2017, you founded, that was a big year of your life. You set up Muslim Council of Hong Kong. Just talk me through what was going on in your mind.
Yeah, so this is, again, I was in Hong Kong as a teacher. I started finding more confidence in myself as well. When I was growing up in Hong Kong, I wasn't really like a big confidence guy. I was more of a follower. I was more like, not sheep, but just a follower. Whatever people tell me to do, I do it. I found myself, to be honest, in Glasgow. And I think one of the things which is really important to know, the East meet West type of thing. In Hong Kong, I found myself to be a very hard worker. I found the value in being hardworking. In UK, I found the value of being free thinking, creative, right? Also in Hong Kong, I found the value of being disciplined, because in UK, that's something that lacks in people. Discipline and hardworking, it's lacking here, but creativity and thinking outside the box and being a sociable person, it's lacking on that side. So alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I got the best of both, right? Yeah. And that's how I look at it. There's obviously drawbacks in every place, but I looked at the both. So when I was in Hong Kong, and in 2017, there was a news that came out in Hong Kong, which was about, and this is a controversial topic, but I have to say it, how Muslim Council of Hong Kong came about. It was about, there was an article in the news that said, ISIS in Hong Kong.
Oh.
Right? So I looked at it, and I was like, what? And the news channel that showed it was a mainstream newspaper. It wasn't just a dilly-dally, right? It was a mainstream. So me and we had a group already at that time. We started sharing stuff, and I'm like, look, this isn't right. And now there are loads of madrasas in Hong Kong, who are run by, majority speaking, Pakistani people who have moved. But what we started realizing was they weren't there academically. They were good Islamically, teaching Quran and Islam. But number one, their language was lacking big time. Not just Chinese, but even English as well. So we felt there was a big hole for the Muslims to be representative in a professional way in Hong Kong. There wasn't any organization that was going into this field. And we were just taken, left, right, and center. So that's when we started writing letters to that newspaper company and say, look, this isn't right what you just said. Because all that was basically a sister, Indonesian sister. She put up a flag which just says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. They took that and said, ISIS in Hong Kong.
Oh.
Right? So, and again, we knew that this is ridiculous. But the point was that if we didn't take an action at that time, people could have made different interpretations about that. Then a big moment in our life, which came after we decided to set up Muslim Council of Hong Kong. The first project we did was write a letter of peace. We wrote a letter of peace to all the different consulates in Hong Kong, non-Muslims, And we printed it in English and Chinese, and we gave it out in the public. We went to university campuses. We went inside on the streets. So that was first street dawah for us. And that event was covered by that same newspaper company.
Oh, wow.
And it's still online. If you find it, Letter of Peace Hong Kong, you'll find me there as well, just giving it out. And I remember some of the comments, people were like, oh, I didn't know Islam said this. Oh, okay, this is quite interesting. I thought you were just going to be spreading hate. I was like, no, this is what you need to know. But that's why it came about, brother, that, we just felt there was a big market that was lacking for Islam to be spread in a professional way, in a consistent way, and especially, as I said, on the streets. Nobody was there.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that's now you have founded Muslim Council of Hong Kong, and you start doing variety of things: street dawah, online classes, workshops, youth project. Tell me about youth. I wanted to speak about, especially young people.
Yeah.
How do you find it? You still working with young people? What you think, like what young people are thinking these days, especially, obviously you're in Hong Kong, so people in Hong Kong, Pakistan, not Pakistanis, the people who were born in there, immigrant parents and stuff. It doesn't matter, it's not even immigrants, but they are ethnic, like not Chinese Hong Kong people.
I think that topic is pretty much the same no matter which part of the world you're in, sadly speaking. The youth are a challenge, no matter where we are, who we are, what we are. For us, we try our best to get them involved in different projects. We have one of the, a teaching program, which is called Making Moments. And it's targeted from 6-year-old to 14-year-old, 3 years program, Islamic teaching, 24 classes and stuff like that. Because what we felt was there were madrasas there for the youth, of course, to learn that the Quran, but they didn't really know Islam. Because there was nothing there in the UK, in Hong Kong, there are Islamic schools. There's one main secondary Islamic school in Hong Kong. There's 2 primary schools in Hong Kong, Islamic school. But they also didn't have really good reputation, sadly speaking, because a lot of the kids that were going there, sadly speaking, were involved in non-good activities, like especially drugs. And that is something that's always a battle. So we start doing youth projects, especially to get the youth involved, of course. And then we start doing initiatives like giving prizes as well, like giving money, just to get them in to our center. We start doing sports competitions. I remember we did a cricket competition. We did a football competition. And it was, again, just kids coming, playing. But we connected it to charity. We said, look, whatever money you give us. And this is something I learned from the UK. Because for me, the UK Islamic skill was my standard that I was trying to aim at. Because Allah Mabarak, for me, UK's Islamic work is top-notch, for me anyway. I know America might say something else, but for me, the Islamic scene in Hong Kong, in terms of the dawah and stuff, I always look up to them. So that's what I started trying to bring it to Hong Kong. Youth project, as I said, for boys and for girls, we started getting more involved. Even now, like street dawah as well. We have group, WhatsApp group, and then again we tried to get the youth involved. We tried to give them training, and it's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, I know it's a big challenge. But how do you Gen Z? They say Gen Z, young people. So how do you make Islam relatable to Gen Z who live in a world of TikTok and they're living in their own world? How do you make it relatable to them?
Yeah, I think, again, just like you said, TikTok, and that's what we started doing. We started getting more content on our channels, which were small content, 1-minute clips and stuff like that. And we started getting them more out because before there was no one in Hong Kong doing that. So there was always this disconnection between those who are online and those who because for them, Islam was just in the madrasa and the masjid. That's it, right? So that's what we wanted to build, that gap that was there. And social media, of course, is a big tool for that. And even now, I try my best to push other organizations in Hong Kong to say, look, you need to get online. You need to get more content. One person, one organization can only do so much, right? You need to get more people online because the people that come to your madrasa, they probably don't come to our center, right? but they know you. Now, if you put a video out for 1 minute just to say, guys, it's not good to lie, for example. Hey, guys, it's not good to say some bad things about, whatever, right? About our characteristic as a Muslim. That will hit them more, And that's always the case, for us. But again, there's only so much you can, it's like sometimes you're talking to a wall, right? Sadly speaking. But social media is a big, big thing. And I know all people say that, but it's a reality. There's no going away from that, That's what we try to do more and more of. And also we try to get the youth involved in our projects to create that content as well. So that they feel like, you know what? Yeah, I'm making something, I'm doing something useful. So yeah, I mean, look, for me, I feel like there's two type of youth. One they identify themselves as Muslim, but they're disconnected completely. And there's this other who are Muslims and they want to do something for Islam as well. Those are easier, of course, right? Is this group which is tougher, But again, this group, they're not going to come to madrasas and stuff to sit in an Islamic class. It's highly unlikely, right? But what they will do, again, is this. So somehow, if we get more content out there, there's hopefully, qadr of Allah, they see something and they stop and they look at it. So yeah.
Go on.
No, that's what I was going to say. Like, the social media is a big, big tool that, and another thing that some people think, oh, well, they're doing it. It doesn't matter. There's never enough. The more you do it, because again, it's just about maybe they friended you because that's how the algorithm works as well, right? They friended you, they never friended me, so they won't see my content, unless by accident it comes. I remember a couple of months ago, one of my friend in Hong Kong, Bangladeshi friend, he found my number and then he called. I think he messaged me and he said Brother Adeel, it's been a long time. I was like, yeah, and he's like, Brother Adeel, I wanted to say to you, alhamdulillah, this is just me telling you the power of internet. He said to me, his son, he watches my videos. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm in UK. He's like, yeah. But for some reason, he likes your videos, old videos about, again, just Islamic topics. And of course, you just thank Allah first and foremost that this is Sadqa Jariyah, that you're leaving behind. But that's the importance of it.
And do you think it's still like in Hong Kong, Muslim identity? You were confident enough even back then to say, I've got a beard, I'm a Muslim, take it or leave it. Yeah. But do you think the young people, are they confident enough in their Muslim identity?
That's a very, very good question you've asked, brother, because alhamdulillah, I wanted to mention this, but it was slipping my mind. In the last year or so, and you can find this online as well, Hong Kong has pushed towards being more Muslim friendly. Why? Tourism. They don't care about Islam, of course, but they care about money. So they realize that the Muslim industry around the world is getting bigger and bigger. And like it or leave it again, we love traveling. We are getting bigger in numbers. Yeah. Again, like it or leave it. You want money? You want us to come to your country, your city? Make it more Muslim friendly. So over the last couple of years, there's been a shift from top to bottom, right? And they're getting more involved in Islamic organizations. So even for Muslim Council of Hong Kong, hotels in Hong Kong have contacted us to get Quran copies from us. Yeah. Because they want to keep it in the rooms when the Muslim guest arrives. They're getting portable mats from us, prayer mats. They're getting istinja bottles from us. Ocean Park, which is a theme park, that's compared to Alton Towers. They got in touch with us and said, but Mr. Malik, we're trying to build a wudu ablution station, wudu station inside the theme park. Right? So I wanted to say this very, very loud that now their reason could be their reason, right? If they want to promote Muslim tourism, they want to, fine. But we are benefiting from it.
That's right. Yeah.
We are the one that, the sisters in hijab, they're more confident to go out now. The brothers with beard, they're going to be like, again, beard was becoming a fashion anyway. But now even the taxi drivers, I remember one article I saw and they said the taxi drivers are told to learn a little bit Arabic.
Wow.
right? So that when they know a Muslim have come in, they can say marhaba or something like that,
Right.
right? But but again, you won't hear about this in the West
Mm.
because this is China doing something good.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about China, they only look at the Uyghur issue, the Xinjiang issue with the
Mm.
Muslims, right? And that is an issue, of course. But again, look at all the other things that, as I said, street dawah that we're doing on the streets in Hong Kong for the last 10 years now, alhamdulillah.
Mm.
On the street, Nathan Road is a big, big road for those who might know.
Mm.
And we see police go walk past us. We say to the Wai Leho, they wave us back, right? So this thing about Islam can't be practiced in Hong Kong, it's not there. And that's why the people have Muslims left Hong Kong? Yes, they have. One of the biggest reasons was which I moved back to Birmingham earlier than usual, to be honest, was because about 5 years ago now, subhanAllah, just around COVID time, there was a protest that started happening in Hong Kong. I don't know if you remember that. There was a anti-China sentiment that was starting to grow in Hong Kong because of certain policies that China were bringing in Hong Kong, and the local people didn't like that, and they wanted the UK to take Hong Kong back. Because I think you probably know this, right? Hong Kong used to be part of the UK, right? So that's, and then there was protest, and Hong Kong started being a bit unsafe, right? And that's when me and my family decided, you know what, we're going to move to UK anyway. Let's just move now. And that period, a lot of people started leaving as well, because the free thinking is limited to a certain extent in China and Hong Kong, 100%. It's not like the UK. I mean, to be honest, even in the UK, it's selective free expression, right? It's selective as well.
All right. So
Exactly.
that's why I wanted to ask you one thing earlier. That like when British they used to rule Hong Kong and China took over, and you were growing up, you must have seen in your family people around you. What's the difference? How can you differentiate between two times, the British Hong Kong and the Chinese Hong Kong?
Chinese Hong Kong. So I think under the British rule, to be honest, I didn't even know we were under British rule, right? Because I was just growing up. I was like, because they moved back to UK in 1997. So I was born in 1984. So until 1997, what's that? I was 13 years old when I moved back to China, right? So all I knew was, is going back to China. I was like, okay, cool. But what I started seeing the difference was there was more people from China coming to Hong Kong.
Right.
And they were bringing their culture to Hong Kong. And that was a shaking as well, because they were doing certain actions. And again, I don't want to, badmouth them, because everybody have their own things they're learning. But they were doing certain actions publicly, of course, which we were looking at. I was like, whoa, come on, man, you can't do that in public, right? And again, it was just their culture. They were doing that in China, so they thought they can do it in Hong Kong. The language was different, of course, as well, because in mainland China and Hong Kong, the Cantonese and Mandarin, there's a dialect different. So it became like, and sadly speaking, how UK sometimes the divide came, right? And that's why a lot of people, especially the elderly, they actually blame UK because they think, you've divided our country. Because Hong Kongers, that's what I'm saying, Hong Kong. Did you hear me say Hong Konger? I didn't say Chinese. Because those people in Hong Kong, they don't want to call themselves Chinese.
Oh.
They want to call themselves Hong Konger, because Chinese for them is only those from China.
Okay.
So as ethnic minority, we were seeing this conflict, civil war, basically. And it was difficult at certain points because people sometimes were putting us on the pedestal. Who do you support, China or Hong Kong? I mean, like, look, guys, we're number one, Hong Kong, of course, but we've got nothing against China as well, right? That's between you. Don't bring us into it. But that was a challenge. That was 100% a challenge. Seeing that shift, it wasn't smooth, and it's still not smooth. There's still that anti-China sentiments in Hong Kong, still there, but they've controlled it. They've controlled it. They brought force, and when China brings force,
Chinese are good at it, isn't it?
Yes. And that, to be honest, you need that fear, though. You need that fear element, because sometimes when you see countries, when they're not fearful of their authorities, you see what happens.
I just wanted to, we were talking about the, tourism to the Hong Kong. You said they're becoming more Muslim friendly and stuff. Okay, if a Muslim wanna visit Hong Kong for a holiday, what top 3 food places would you recommend them to have from a halal top
From a
3
halal
halal
perspective.
places?
Yeah. So if you go, I mean, of course, I'll just say go online, but that's the reality, right? There's loads of places in Hong Kong opening up, and even in the last 3 years since I've moved to Birmingham, and I look back in Hong Kong because I'm still in the group where Hong Kongers are, where Muslims are, of course. But MCHK has a brothers group for WhatsApp, and there's about 800 members there. So people put like every month there's like a new place opening, new halal place opening. So it just depends on the cuisine, of course, as well. Number one, of course, you have to try Chinese halal, right? There's no way you go to Hong Kong and you don't try the Chinese food, right? So in Hong Kong, there's a couple of restaurants which I'll really recommend. One is called Islam City. It's a Chinese restaurant. They call themselves Islam City. And they're run by Chinese people, Chinese Muslims. Another one.
Uyghur Muslims?
No. Like the Hong Kong Chinese.
Han Chinese. Oh, yeah, Hong Kong
Hong
Chinese.
Kong Chinese. So, but they're Muslims, right? The second restaurant, which I always love to go to, is actually a restaurant in the masjid. It's called Wan Chai Masjid. So this masjid is like 9 floors up, alhamdulillah, run by Chinese, and is on the top floor. And that food is, alhamdulillah, next level. That's Chinese food. In terms of course, Pakistani and Indian, there's loads of places. Chimcha Choi, there's a district called, that's where I grew up basically, Chimcha Choi. If you just type Chimcha Choi halal food, you'll find so many places there. Mongkok has it as well. And but other like Turkish food is there as well. Lebanese food is there as well. Even like Western food places, but halal, it's there as well. So, and that's what we're saying, right? And this, in the last 2 years, the government is pushing the restaurants to start getting halal certification. And even like local Chinese restaurants, they're starting to push halal. And because that logo halal is a big selling point for them. Because the Chinese people don't care, right? They just want good food. Because in UK, of course, there is this thing about the animal rights and stuff like that, right? And they look at halal logo in a negative way, certain group of people here. But in Hong Kong, they don't care. They're like, look, as long as it's good food, you can put whatever logo on your window and stuff. Just give me good food.
Okay. All right. So let's do a quick rapid fire round where we have, alhamdulillah, had an amazing conversation. All right. I think this is the first thing I have to ask is Glasgow or Hong Kong?
Hong Kong. Hong Kong.
Teaching or dawah?
Dawah.
Book that changed your life?
I can't go past the Quran.
Brilliant. Your daily non-negotiable habit?
Non-negotiable habit. Having good food. Having good food.
One line that defined your purpose?
Oh, subhanAllah. I mentioned this in the earlier on, which is to be a sadaqah jariyah for my parents.
That's a brilliant note to end on. That was brilliant. May Allah have mercy on your parents. And may Allah give highest maqam to both.
Ameen ya Rab.
Jazakallah khair, bro.
Yeah, brother.